He is a rare talent in the cultivation world. His life belief is, survive. He always sends Paperman to fights while he watches on the sidelines. He even sets up layers of traps for himself to cultivate in his sect. In order to escape, he has mastered all escape techniques to perfection through cultivation. Originally, in Kinzo's plan, he would hide in the mountains peacefully and cultivate to immortality without any troubles. Unexpectedly, his master brought back a junior sister for him. Only saw an elder bringing a little girl to the front of a wooden house. After knocking on the door with no response, he then pushed the door open directly. But the house was empty with no one inside. Elder was still puzzled that Aura was clearly inside. But when he discovered the paper man on the bed, he finally understood that Aura was emanating from this paper man. Just then, a scent wafted over. Elder was shocked as soon as he smelled it. Oops, it's the gentle immortal incense that Kinzo provided. Just saw him grab little girl's arm and rush outside. But at that moment, little girl felt dizzy and disoriented. But soon the two of them couldn't hold on any longer and fell to the ground. Just when little girl was feeling confused, suddenly she heard the sound of water. She saw a long figure on the surface of the lake rising into the air. The handsome face of the young man was imprinted in the eyes of the little girl. This made her little face blush instantly. The last sentence she thought of before passing out. Indeed, it was the heroic senior brother in her imagination. Upon returning to the room, Elder immediately started hitting Kinzo and scolded him for daring to scheme against Master. Kinzo explained that he wanted to cultivate the water escape technique and set up this anti-thief arrangement. Still guarding against thieves. Our little peak is almost turning into little poor. Just as the two argued, the little girl woke up, even though she could hear the movements outside. But she couldn't open her eyes at all. She learned from the conversation between the two that her senior brother is called Kinzo, and she felt that senior brother's voice was warm. It gave her a feeling like a mother. Elder saw that she and Kinzo couldn't figure things out, so she just handed her token to Kinzo. Master asked him to wait here for Kaya to wake up. Bring her to the main peak to register. Receive the official disciple identity card and monthly supply. After speaking, Master turned around angrily and left. Not long after Elder left, the little girl on the bed opened her eyes. She saw the figure that was bowing down in contemplation at that moment. Senior brother is so tall. Master's foundation is still a bit weak. The spiritual power is insufficient. I'm afraid it will be difficult to withstand the heavenly tribulation of attaining immortality. Listening to senior brother muttering to himself, Kaya couldn't help but wonder what it all meant. Weariness struck once again. Unconsciously, Kaya gently closed their eyes. Soon, she heard the increasingly clear sound of footsteps. Junior sister, I am your senior brother Kinzo. I am now relieving you of the effects of the gentle immortal incense. If you can hear me, please don't consider me a pervert. I am a man with very positive values. But he immediately said to himself again, what nonsense am I talking about? Where can she withstand the effects of this drug just as she is starting to cultivate? Kaya, who was conscious, heard the words, pervert, and values clearly. She couldn't help but exclaim that these specialized terms about cultivation are hard to understand. Senior brother is indeed a chi cultivator. Only to see Kinzo's palm emitting strands of spiritual power energy. Then he placed his hand on Kaya's forehead to heal her. Take the opportunity to check her soul. After probing, he found that her soul was perfectly harmonized with her body. She should not have undergone soul transfer. Her aptitude seems to be pretty good. Compatibility between water and wood. Just don't know what her temperament is like. But judging from her appearance, she may become a beauty in the future. Beautiful women have always been trouble since ancient times. He must try to avoid them. After checking the spirit Kinzo, he decided to further investigate whether she is hiding something like a demon seed. Then he saw Kinzo's hand leading Kaya's forehead and slowly sliding down. Kaya's face, who was in a light sleep, also blushed slightly. When she felt senior brother's hand moving towards her abdomen, Kaya's heart raced, and she cried out excitedly, "You can't touch me there!" Kenzo nodded and proceeded with his thorough examination. There shouldn't be any issues with junior sister. She hasn't been soul transferred. She has not been cursed or hexed. She is indeed a good seedling for cultivation. Thinking of this, Kenzo wiped the sweat off his forehead. Entry inspection. Officially passed. Next up. It is about conducting a training course for junior sister. This also needs to be well prepared. She better not like to stir up trouble. In this way, the probability of attracting bad karma can be consistent with now. Looking at the sleeping Kaya, senior brother suddenly said, "He probably also understands why so many people like cute little girls in their past lives. Who can resist such cuteness?" Cute. Last life. Although Kaya didn't understand, he felt that Master was right. Senior brother seemed a bit strange. It's possible that the healing effect from senior brother's treatment had just kicked in. Kaya opened his eyes all of a sudden. But she found, senior brother's eyes were so scary, she heard senior brother ask softly, "Did you hear that just now?" Kaya was instantly scared and at a loss for what to do. Speaking of which, Kenzo found that Kaya knew his secret. He sternly warned her, "Do not mention what he had just said to anyone." Think about what he just said. The biggest loophole should be about the past life. He didn't expect himself to be guarded against for over 100 years. He actually revealed his true colors in front of the newly arrived junior sister. He turned his head and glanced at the young girl on the bed who was trying to sit up. A hint of red flashed in Kenzo's eyes. He still needed to kill to cover up the crime. Kill to cover up. But the next moment, he covered his head and sighed deeply. "What I just said? You must never mention it to anyone." Kaya immediately indicated that she remembered. However, Kenzo repeated it again. Never mention it to anyone. This includes Master. When Kaya nodded in understanding, Kenzo finally gave in. In this slanting sunlight, Kaya is under the technical guidance and supervision of senior brother Kenzo. Start recounting the Great Path Vow, which is a lengthy text of 1,000 words, considering various circumstances. After a full hour, the two of them finally walked out of the wooden house. He looked at Kaya, who was still feeling a bit dizzy. Kenzo handed over a light green pill. He asked Kaya to come and make up for chi. When Kaya swallowed the pill, she unexpectedly perked up instantly. Kenzo gently stroked Kaya's head. This junior sister is indeed quite adorable. In the future, you will also be a part of Little Peak. I'll show you around and help you get familiar with the environment. The little girl immediately responded with joy. Soon the two of them arrived at the lakeside. They watched groups of fish swimming in the lake. Kenzo proudly said, "These are all good things. They are also an important part of our Little Peak assets." Kaya looked at the colorful spiritual fish in the lake with joy. "So beautiful." When you have cultivated your first bit of chi. Let's have a spiritual fish feast once you have cultivated your first bit of chi. The spiritual fish with its colorful scales not only tastes delicious, but it is also a rare delicacy that can elevate the quality of a chi cultivator's first intake of spiritual power energy, whether it's fried, steamed, baked, or deep-fried. Kaya's forehead immediately had 2 black lines. "Do you want some? Why else would we raise them?" After saying that, he took out a handful of rice grains and started feeding the fish in the lake. Looking at Kaya's joyful expression, Kenzo then handed the fish food to Kaya. "You should like it. The mission of feeding the fish every day will be entrusted to you from now on." The little girl happily responded and took the fish food. Watching Kaya's excitement, Kenzo rubbed his chin. One less task to do every day. More time can be spent on cultivation. Thinking of this, Kenzo's face was full of pride. He truly is a planning expert. After Kenzo helped Kaya complete the relevant procedures and receive the corresponding items, Kaya officially became a novice disciple of Little Peak. On that day, Master was explaining the related knowledge of chi to Kaya. When she passed by the lake, she found senior brother suspended above the water's surface. In Kaya's surprise, Kinzo suddenly disappeared again. At this moment, Master explained, "Your senior brother is comprehending the water escape technique. He has a strong interest in various escape techniques. This should be the 6th escape technique he has mastered." The little girl's eyes lit up. "Senior brother is so amazing." When Kinzo returned to the room, Master entrusted him with the important task of teaching Kaya. Master said that he wants to cultivate the ultimate profound path. Kinzo had just been about to refuse when Master suddenly transformed into a wisp of green smoke and vanished. Soon Kinzo also realized that it might not be a bad thing to teach someone on his own. If Junior Sister knew how to survive low-key, he wouldn't have to worry about her causing any trouble for him. A few days later, Kinzo began teaching Junior Sister. Kinzo immediately started testing Junior Sister's soul. One day, your cultivation achievement at Spirit Transformation Stage 9 discovered that a cultivator at Spirit Transformation Stage 6 had offended a female cultivator at Chi Refining Stage. What would you do? He then gave 3 options. You will rush up and kill him. You are the righteous avatar, or throw a magical artifact from afar to hit him. Then you calmly leave. Ruin his mood. Or just pretend you didn't see anything. Slip away from the side. Multiple choice question. You choose. Kaya first chose the first one. How do you know if this person has hidden their cultivation achievement as someone who acts without reservation? How could they possibly be honest? What about the second option? Junior Sister, don't forget. You are also a female cultivator yourself. This beastly person has seen you, Junior Sister, who is as beautiful as a flower and precious as jade. His wild nature is even more ignited. Wouldn't you be in danger as well? Kaya was suddenly scared by senior brother and covered her chest. Kinzo then gave Kaya a final soul-searching question. Junior Sister, I'll give you one last chance to choose. Speak out without hesitation and make a firm decision. If you choose the third option, I will pretend that I didn't see it and let you slip by. Little did she know, this lesson will impact her entire immortal life. On that day, Kinzo was daydreaming while leaning against a tree when suddenly someone woke him up. When Kinzo opened his eyes and looked at the person in front of him, he asked, "Beautiful lady, who are you?" "You're still half asleep." "It's me, Kaya. Everyone is starting to gather at Main Peak. We'll be late if we don't go over there soon." When the two rushed to the Hall of Wonders, they found that the entrance was already packed with people. It turned out that today was the once every 5 years Disciples Outing Cultivation Trial organized by the Immortal Salvation Sect. There are a total of 12 locations for this cultivation trial, divided according to the 4 realms of refining chi, spirit transformation, return to void, and return to path before attaining immortality. Soon an elder spoke up. "Those going to the shores of the East Sea to slay demons and evil spirits, head to the far left. Those whose cultivation achievement is not less than Refining Chi Stage 6 will go to this location, and rewards will be based on the number of demons slain." At this time, Kinzo asked Kaya to follow the majority of people. "Senior brother, where exactly are you going?" But Kinzo just smiled without saying a word. The originally crowded crowd now gradually dispersed. Kaya watched as senior brother remained motionless. She was suddenly distracted by the noisy crowd while she was deep in thought, only to see 2 people coming together. They are none other than the prestigious young generation, Amy and Ryder. At this point, the elder also shouted, "Disciples from the southeast chaotic poisonous treasure forest of Reed Island, please enter the hall and wait. This place is very dangerous. Disciples frequently get injured. The minimum requirement is Spirit Transformation Realm Stage 9. At this moment, Kinzo finally stepped forward and walked on. "Senior brother, what are you suddenly going to do on Reed Island for?" "I am going to gather herbs." Kaya couldn't help but become even more puzzled. "Isn't there enough herbs at senior brother's house for you to use? You really are something. Why do you have to go to such a dangerous place?" At this time, the elder urged Kaya to return to the team quickly. They were about to set off. Kaya could only sigh helplessly. She left after reminding senior brother to be careful. When Kinzo entered the hall, almost everyone's eyes turned to him. Some people were whispering that Spirit Transformation Stage 9 had come to court death. The scene was instantly extremely awkward. At this moment, someone tapped Kinzo on the back from behind. She is Julia from Sky Peak. She is going to the East Sea to hunt down those shrimp demons. Kinzo immediately bowed to her and stated that he needed to go to Reed Island to collect a certain herb. Before Kinzo could finish speaking, Julia directly threw her elder token to Kinzo. She told him to use her token to get whatever he needed. If you die, your master will definitely come and cry to me. Just thinking about it annoys me. But Kinzo still refused. If Masters Jr. chooses to accept, I certainly do not want to take any risks. This time, I have no choice. Moreover, according to the rules, Masters Jr. cannot refuse a disciple's request to go on a cultivation trial. Please fulfill this request, Masters Jr. Julia reluctantly withdrew the token. She instructed Ryder and Emmy, who were standing beside her. She asked them to help take care of Kinzo when they have the time. Kinzo looked at these two people. A woman with facial paralysis. A big warm man. They are quite well matched. When everyone was gathered, Julia summoned her wine-gourd magical artifact and enlarged it to carry everyone to their destination. Not flying far, Kinzo suddenly noticed a figure in the clouds above. He immediately transmitted this discovery to Julia Masters Jr. Julia immediately released her spiritual sense. Before long, he heard Julia shout loudly, "I didn't realize this Taoist friend had been following us for so long. What brings you here?" Just then, a burly figure flew out. "I am the Guardian General of the Honglin country in East Shinjo. I am here to protect. If there is any offense, please do not be angry." Just listen to Emmy speaking in an extremely cold tone. "Go back. You don't need to worry about me." Kinzo, on the other hand, only gave a slight twitch of his nose. "I smell the scent of a trick," said Kinzo. After Ryder and the visitor made a heartfelt plea, Emmy eventually agreed reluctantly to let this person travel with her. Julia also agreed to let him board the wine gourd and sit with Kinzo. But Kinzo always felt that this person was up to something. He then sat behind Julia, using the excuse of being shy around strangers, to keep a distance from the person. But he looked at Julia's insatiable drinking appearance. Kinzo couldn't help but cover his head. He still found a reason to leave the team and go solo. On the way, Julia casually asked Kinzo if his master is about to attain immortality soon. Crossing the tribulation should be within the next 3 to 5 years. Julia sighed. Back then, our group had a good relationship. Your master originally had good aptitude as well. But after suffering an injury, his foundation was damaged. Until now, it hasn't been able to be repaired. Kinzo showed a faint smile. His eyes also narrowed slightly. He rarely showed this expression in front of people other than master and junior sister. My master has always devoted all his efforts to teach me and junior sister. To us, master is like a parent. Talking about it. After all these years, you only reached Spirit Transformation Stage 9. Let me check your aptitude." As she finished speaking, she reached out her hand towards Kinzo. Kinzo subconsciously took a few steps back and loudly shouted that men and women should not be too close. Julia, however, simply didn't believe this nonsense and continued to reach out towards Kinzo. Kinzo quickly dodged and mentioned that a few years ago, he suddenly developed a condition where his whole body would convulse upon contact with a woman. Kinzo finished speaking and his steps shifted, leaving behind 2 lingering afterimages of his figure. He appeared directly behind Emmy. Kinzo looked at Julia with a wry smile on his face. Suddenly, Kinzo felt a gentle touch. He looked down. That was Emmy poking her inner thigh with one finger. Kinzo was instantly at a loss. He thought of what he had just said. Almost instantly, he made a decision. He's also quite ruthless. At this moment, he didn't care at all about his external image. His body began to tremble, gritting his teeth to control the muscle distortion. His face showed pain, eyes rolling upwards violently, froth forming in his mouth. If you say you're sick, you have to act like it. 2 days later, Kenzo and his group finally arrived at the chaotic poisonous treasure forest. Julia then told a few people the rules of this cultivation trial. The duration of this cultivation trial is 20 days. If you choose to quit before the 20 days are up, it will be considered a failure. At the same time, she asked the man to stay in place and not follow into the woods. The man, however, expressed his desire to protect the princess. The more Kenzo looks at this person, the more he feels that there is something wrong with this guy. Regarding his request, Julia is not used to him. She told him to either stay here by himself. Otherwise, she would tie him up here. At this point, Ryder expressed that he would protect Emmy himself. He told the man to stay here and rest assured. Kenzo felt inexplicably that Ryder and this man were accomplices. Finally, Julia emphasized again, asking them to help each other as much as possible inside. Next, Kenzo emphasized not to risk their lives searching for herbs. Precious spiritual power herbs are often guarded by fierce beasts. Before they left, she gave each person a jade ornament to be crushed when they encountered danger. She would sense it and rush in for rescue. But using the jade messenger means giving up this cultivation trial. After everyone received the jade messenger, they began walking into the woods to start their own cultivation trial, while Kenzo kept sticking talismans all over his body. Julia saw this from the side. She was so angry that she kicked him in. Go in quickly, remember to keep up with others, use Spirit Transformation Stage 9. Just as Kenzo was about to enter the forest, he suddenly transmitted a message to Julia. Those with unknown origins, like Masters Jr., are always somewhat suspicious. Do not easily believe in them. After he enters the poisonous miasma forest, Kenzo quietly took out a map. Now it seems that the top priority is to find a suitable reason to leave the team. Soon, the group arrived at a three-way intersection. Kenzo saw an opportunity coming. He immediately chose a different path from the others and sneaked away alone. At this moment, Julia, who was watching them from the sky, saw them unexpectedly splitting into 3 groups. She couldn't help but feel a headache. They were all precious immortal candidates and couldn't afford any mistakes. At this moment, she saw the man beside her. She thought it might be better to let him follow Emmy and Ryder so that it could reduce a lot of pressure. As soon as she thought of this, the words Kenzo had said to her earlier suddenly came to mind. So she let the man follow her closely. They went to check on Emmy and Ryder's situation together. After checking the situation on the other 2 sides, Julia was very reassured. But when she looked over at Kenzo's side, she found that Kenzo had actually disappeared, just when she thought Kenzo had been swallowed whole by some culprit. She then caught sight of Kenzo. Kenzo was flying swiftly into the depths of the dense forest. Julia was so angry that she was about to grab Kenzo back. At this moment, she suddenly smelled something. Taking a closer sniff, it turned out to be the Crimson Sun poison dragon venom. Although not a rare treasure, it was still quite valuable. I don't know where he got it from. With this thing hanging around, even ordinary poisons dare not approach. No wonder Kenzo dares to act so recklessly and charge forward. Finally, she also relaxed her guard against Kenzo. Let's go! Let's go and see His Highness again. Don't talk behind our backs saying that we, as Masters Juniors, are biased. Just as Julia turned and flew off into the distance, a black beetle flew out beside the man's leg. It flew straight towards Kenzo, who was dashing. Kenzo suddenly stopped in his tracks. He looked up at the sky. Why did he feel like a pair of eyes were staring at him in the air? Kenzo's first reaction was Masters Jr., but quickly dismissed it, because the gaze was hostile, adhering to the principle of better to believe it than to disbelieve it. Just watch as Kenzo forms hand seals with his hands, muttering words under his breath. A burst of golden light appeared on the black earth in front of him. He stepped into it with the earth escape technique of the 5 elements. His figure swiftly sank into the ground and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After a moment, Kinzo's figure emerged from a thicket 50 miles away. The feeling of being followed has indeed disappeared. At this point, he could also make a definitive judgment. He and his companions are bound to encounter some unexpected events. Kinzo continues to speed towards his destination. At this moment, he remembered the man who suddenly appeared halfway. Ryder always looks very kind, but he appears very cold on the surface. Actually, Emmy shouldn't have any hidden agenda. Princess, secular power. Kinzo's heart has analyzed a clue and is increasingly convinced that a story is bound to happen. But think about it. These have nothing to do with me. If it weren't for having no other choice, I wouldn't take the risk of coming to such a dangerous place. This completely goes against my life principle of surviving in the mountains until I grow old. But when he thinks of his own master, Kinzo rallied again and continued to dash through the black forest filled with poisonous miasma. Speaking of which, Kinzo has been trekking through the poisonous miasma forest for 2 days. Suddenly, he felt like he was being followed again. He threw out a few spider threads from his left hand for reconnaissance. Before long, a scene of a person rushing towards him quickly emerged in Kinzo's mind. The opponent's cultivation achievement was initially assessed to be at Stage 6 or Stage 7 of Return to Void, but there was a possibility of concealing a second assessment at Stage 6 of Return to Path Realm. This assassin did not use a more efficient flight technique. The chances of having attained immortality were extremely low. He decided to find a suitable ambush location and spotted an open space ahead. Instantly, an idea formed in his mind. He took out 2 paper men from his right hand. Next, Kinzo once again used Earth Escape. At the same time, a bright light shone from his right hand. At this moment, the assassin behind him had also caught up. A sword chi shot straight toward Kinzo. Before Kinzo could react, his neck was struck by that sword chi. His head was thrown directly backwards. Then the assassin appeared next to Kinzo. Just as he was about to become pleased with himself, the headless Kinzo reached out and grabbed the man's ankle. The assassin instinctively chopped off Kinzo's arm. He quickly retreated several meters backward and realized immediately that he had fallen into a trap. But it was already too late at this point. Suddenly, a fragrant smell wafted out. This is Kinzo's self-developed hallucinogenic drug Gentle Immortal Incense. Assassin immediately felt like all his strength was being drained away. His spiritual power and aura became extremely lazy, to the point where they couldn't operate at all. Just then, Kinzo emerged from the ground holding an umbrella. This umbrella was Kinzo's own magical artifact, the sky-changing divine umbrella. Kinzo gently spun the umbrella. A 15-jong diameter isolation spell formation suddenly appeared out of thin air. It is based on an umbrella. It completely isolates everything here from the outside world in an instant. Then Kinzo raised his right hand. In an instant, the 3 paper men swelled up and turned into Kinzo's appearance. They rushed forward. The paper men had not reached the assassin yet. Kinzo had already raised a bronze short crossbow in his left hand. He decisively pulled the trigger. An arrow shot out swiftly. It accurately pierced through the assassin's forehead. The next 3 paper man clones rushed forward. The first paper man shot out 3 long nails. They directly pierced the assassin's 3 energy cores from top to bottom. The long spike locked his 3 souls, fixed his 7 spirits. The second paper man opens his mouth and sprays out a flame, completely wrapping the assassin's figure. The third paper man speaks eloquently with words, using the "Subdue spirits, vanquish demons" magic spell. At this point, the assassin's soul has scattered, and only a small handful of remains are being consumed by flames. At this moment, Kinzo once again summoned a precious bead and absorbed all the remaining shreds of the opponent's fragmented soul into it. Just to be safe, He had the 3 paper men simultaneously recite the Transference Sutra. In the end, only a broken sword, a small amount of ash, and a tiny ring were left underground. Kinzo casually took the ring into his palm, not in a hurry to break the restriction on it. He simply wrapped it layer by layer with spiritual power, and threw it into his spare storage magical artifact. It was not until then that Kinzo retracted the umbrella. He also recycled the 3 paper men. At the same time, he raised his left hand and pointed his sword. A touch of sword chi surged out. The sword chi accurately hit a black beetle, which was instantly blown to pieces. The whole action was smoothly executed as if it had been practiced countless times before. Afterwards, he used Earth Escape to quickly distance himself from this place. Kinzo saw many memory fragments from the fragmented soul inside the gem. He also took the opportunity to explore the memories of the assassin. The assassin named Vulture Cultivation Achievement was hired with Spirit Stones in return to Path Realm Stage 2. He specializes in doing dirty work as a chi cultivator. He ambushed Kinzo because of the messenger talisman on him, wanting to lure Julia here with the messenger talisman. As long as Julia rushes to his side, this group of people will immediately target Liliana and Noah, using them as bait to lure Julia into a spell formation. And their real target. They want the princess. Such elaborate arrangement. They seem to be aiming for a more sordid purpose. And the mastermind behind all this turned out to be the junior fellow disciple writer at the shore of the East Sea. Kaya, armed with a poison powder given by senior brother, is wreaking havoc. She complains in her heart that senior brother went on this risky mission without taking her along. Just as she was lost in thought, 7 or 8 shrimp demons sneak attack Kaya. At a critical moment, she remembered the secret weapon senior brother had given her. When encountering emergencies or tough enemies, she would throw this bottle out. In a flash, Kaya took out a porcelain bottle and threw it out. The bottle exploded among the group of shrimp demons, instantly enveloping them all in a red smoke. As soon as those shrimp demons came into contact with the smoke, they instantly dissipated and turned into countless colorful bubbles scattered in the air. At this moment, the other associates on Reed Island noticed that both Vulture and Kinzo's auras had disappeared simultaneously. They mistakenly thought that Vulture had left after killing someone and taking the spoils. The labyrinth formation targeting Julia was already in place. After discussions among the group, they dispersed one by one and began their actions. Half a day later, Ryder decisively crushed the messenger talisman without hesitation. Emmy, sitting on the ground injured, angrily questioned Ryder. At this moment, one of Ryder's men reported that Julia had taken the bait. Ryder then took out a box. "This is love goo. After planting love goo, you will only have me in your heart." At this moment, Julia and that man are flying rapidly towards Ryder's side. But at this moment, Noah's messenger talisman also lit up. He was troubled by his inability to split into multiple forms. The person suggested that he himself go to Ryder's place, and that Julia quickly go to rescue Noah and the others. Julia thought that the person was Emmy's bodyguard and didn't think much of it. She agreed to his suggestion and immediately flew over to Noah's location. As she watched Julia leave, the man revealed a sinister smile. When Julia arrived, she found that only Noah and another person had already passed out on the ground. After investigating, she found that both of them were unharmed. She finally felt relieved when she lifted the two of them to leave. But at this moment, a thick fog rose all around them. Julia suddenly realized that she had entered into a powerful spell formation. Julia flew around in the spell formation, feeling lost. Not being skilled in formation techniques, she quickly realized that she was spinning in place. At this moment, she finally realized that she had been fooled from the beginning. The person's intention was to lead her away, and the goal of these people was probably directed towards Emmy and Ryder. Julia couldn't help but curse out loud. What kind of chi cultivator tricks are these ghostly tricks? You rogues. If you have the ability, come out and fight me for 300 rounds. Only some poisonous insects responded to her. At this time, on Kinzo's side, looking at the map in his hand, he couldn't help but complain. Immortal Remedy herb is really hard to find. A drop of rain fell on the map at this moment. The map was instantly corroded with a hole by the rain. Acid rain? Kinzo also didn't dare to act rashly at this moment. He directly opened a hole in the cliff to prepare to go in and take shelter for a while. Out of caution, Kinzo first used a spider silk to probe around. But suddenly he sensed something. After a quick count on his fingers, the situation has changed. I need to go out and take a look. At this moment, a woman was falling from a high altitude. She happened to be met by Kinzo, who had just come out. Upon closer inspection, he found that the person was actually Emi. Little did Kinzo know that he had some tricks up his sleeve. He turned his head directly to the side. "Oh dear, the rain is pouring heavily," he said in order to completely block his view. He couldn't see a thing now. Emi, on the other hand, let out a loud crash and had an intimate encounter with the ground. Just as Kinzo was about to turn and leave, a weak voice came from behind. "Kinzo, senior brother? Please go, don't mind me. Your cultivation achievement is too low. They have strength in numbers." Upon hearing this, Kinzo sighed heavily in resignation. "All right. Since you still have a conscience, I'll accompany you halfway. I won't be able to take care of you in the second half. You'll have to rely on fate." It's unknown how long passed. Emi suddenly woke up. She found herself still alive. Only then did she realize. It was senior brother Kinzo who saved her. At this moment, she suddenly discovered a letter left beside her, along with some pills and a talisman. After reading this letter, she found out that it was written by an anonymous person. Recalling that she had been injured by Ryder before, at a critical moment, Emi used the teleport talisman given by the master. This was how she coincidentally got teleported here and met Kinzo. At this moment, Emi also discovered that her legs, waist, and other private parts were wrapped with bandages. She blushed instinctively, but then she thought of Kinzo, who suffers from a condition that causes him to convulse when in contact with women. Not only did he endure the pain of convulsions and foaming at the mouth to wrap her wounds, but he also left so many things for me. She was deeply moved. She vowed to repay senior brother Kinzo in the future when she had the chance. Little did she know, the map that Kinzo left for her indicated a southwestern direction, while he himself was heading northwest to avoid encountering her again. However, all plans are idealistic. Reality can be cruel. A few days later, after Emi had recovered from her injuries, she directly smashed the large stone blocking the entrance. She saw senior brother Kinzo still using round stones to block the entrance, coming to help her conceal her whereabouts. She must return alive to repay him. But Emi looked at the map left by Kinzo. This really puzzled her. What direction is the southwest direction after all? In the end, she flew off in the northwest direction based on intuition. At this moment, Kinzo, who was on the road, couldn't help but shiver involuntarily. Why did he have an inexplicable sense of foreboding? At night, Kinzo sat on the ground helplessly watching the crimson sun-poisoned dragon venom in his hand diminishing. He had collected a pile of various strange flowers and plants, but he couldn't even find a trace of the immortal remedy herb he was after, not even a seedling.